So this evening, we are going to discuss and to tackle this particular topic. Romans 12, verses 13 and 15. I'm going to take them all as we go along. Attitudes, okay? In relationship, you expect something from a person, and oftentimes it is displayed by the behavior, but displayed by the actions and attitudes. When I say attitudes, these are shown and unshown expressions. How many times have you caught yourself lying to yourself, lying to your emotions, lying to your feeling? You are really boiling deep within you because you're hungry, but you're thinking you're a pastor. Have you noticed that? You cannot just easily express that anger and that explosion within you. That is attitude. There are people who are just having some kind of misinterpreting or misunderstanding, or even taking you down in your relationship. We have all seen different kinds of attitudes. But the question is, what do you do when those around you seem to have bad attitudes that constantly beat you down? Romans 12, verses 13 to 15 says, contribute to the needs of God's people, sharing in the necessities of the saints. Pursue the practice of hospitality. Despite those who persecute you, who are cruel in the attitude towards you, bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, sharing others' joys, and weep with those who weep, and that is sharing others' grief. Have you ever had those people that know how to push your buttons? Oh, believe me, even talking of our children, oh, they know how to push our buttons. Our wives, our spouses, yes, they know how to push our buttons. They know how to annoy us. They know how to manipulate us. Maybe because they're too familiar of us. And that relationship is so close that you don't have to say a word, and yet they know you and they know what you feel. Thus, they know how to push your buttons. They seem to know the right things at the right time to get you all fired up. It's like you know what to say to get you all riled up. Have you ever known people like that? I sure have, and I believe you have. It seems like they have a list of comeback lines and annoyances that they will pop up for a quarter. You mean something well, and yet they just would like to annoy you. They respond to you by word or even by action or even by their facial expressions. And that really riled you up. There is a saying that says, give me $1 and I give you an insult. Here's a great question to all of us, my dear brothers and sisters. Have you, or how do you deal with those people? I mean, do you really want 10,000 volts of electricity to flow through them? Sometimes, right? You just want to twist them. You just, if you allow yourself, you just want to bend them in circle and throw them out. But this evening, my dear brothers and sisters, this morning, let's take a look at how to deal with difficult people and how to deal with their attitudes. Number one is face it. We have to face it, my dear brothers and sisters, that we are different from these people. We cannot please everyone, so to speak. We are not the same as these people. We feel differently. We carry ourselves differently. We think differently. We understand things differently. That's the reason why it is very crucial and open communication is needed in order for us to establish a special and a right relationship. According to Paul, as he wrote a letter to Timothy in 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 to 5, and I read, Don't be naive, he advised Timothy. You see, Timothy was young and he was an apprentice of Paul. So Paul was concerned about him. And maybe in common conversation, normal conversation, as Timothy was trying to relate with a newly formed church, as he was with Paul, he had noticed some kind of attitudes. People might not have said it, but people are arguing maybe with him. And as a young person, excuse me, Timothy maybe have shared it with Paul in a conversation about the attitudes that he has seen with a group of people in a newly formed church. And so Paul had advised Timothy and said, don't be naive. There are difficult times ahead. As the end approaches, people are going to be self-absorbed. This is something that we're facing, my dear brothers and sisters. People are self-absorbed. People are money hungry. People are self-promoting. I remember people are how do you call this? Are complaining and protective of their privacy. And yet you look at the postings that they do at Facebook. Look at them. Self-promoting, stuck up, profane, contemptuous to parents. People are crude, people are coarse, people are dog-eating dog. They are unbending, slanderers, impulsively wild, savage, cynical, treacherous, ruthless, bloated windbags, addicted to lusts, and allergic to God. They'll make a show of religion, but behind the scenes, they are animals. Stay clear of these people. That is the advice of Paul to Timothy, to the young Timothy. This isn't about petty views of godliness, my dear brothers and sisters. There are people who are showing themselves to be religious enough. And yet behind that religiosity, Paul is saying they are animals. They are animals. Why? Because they're untrained. They're savage. They're slanderers. And so these were the warnings of Paul to Timothy. That as you want to establish relationship with people in the church, with people around you, with people in your family, these people are having their own personal interest at hand and in mind. There are big problems. These are big problems, my dear brothers and sisters. They are character issues. This is faith-shaking, unredeemed behavior. It's the stuff that causes others to wonder, is it isolated phoniness? Or is the whole church filled with pretenders? Ever shaken? They morph into nice little people for that purpose when they gathered, or whatever but it's like the space alien, like the Star Trek, the beautiful creation that they have, nice exteriors of their spaceships, and yet before you know it, you will get zapped with a phaser and is shown to be a monster underneath. They deny its power. What power exactly are they denying? By their living, it would appear that they are denying its power to change their behavior and value. They're going through outward emotions, but they still filled with attitudes mentioned. So to Timothy, you're young. Don't be naive, Paul said. You might as well know this. Face it, it's real. Whether you accept it or not, it is there. Whether you like it or not, it is there. It's not right, my dear brothers and sisters. It's not right for us Christians or for us religious people that we show such kind of attitude. And it's not right also that our fellow congregation members are showing the same to us. The church has a share of unredeemed attitudes and behaviors. You don't have to be around any church very long to experience it. It should disappoint us. It should shake us. It should move us, but it should not shock us. What have you experienced, my dear brothers and sisters? Have you experienced it? If you answer yes, yes, then it is real. Of course, part of the answer is that none of us is perfect. And so because nobody is perfect, stop expecting people to be. So as ministers, stop expecting people to be perfect. That is the reality, my dear brothers and sisters. Therefore, we have to face it. People won't see eye to eye with you. So just accept it now. People will not even talk to you, will not even say hi to you. Maybe because of the sermon that you delivered last Sunday or last Sabbath. And they took it personally and they were hit really to the core of their soul and their personalities. Let's face it, it does happen and it is existing within our congregations. Number two answer or number two thing, suggestion is that as we face it, let's forget it. Let's forget it. That means let's just pass it. Don't be affected by it emotionally. You hear it from the other ear, you let it pass to the other ear. You need to just tune to some of this stuff out, or it will drag you down. Don't let anyone mess up your relationship with God. Do not stumble over others' sin. Do not be consumed with their sin or be disheartened. Take it easy. I don't know why we as pastors, we are so concerned so much with it's not bad, but our overprotectiveness oftentimes with our congregations and members of our churches, when they don't do and then they don't follow the rules that we had created within the church, then we get angry, we get disturbed, disheartened. But Paul is saying, and our suggestion today is don't be consumed by it. Don't be disheartened with it. Just take it easy. Also, don't be fooled into accepting it as normal. And then you would just say, oh, it's normal. It's because he's a sinner. Excuses, excuses. No, you don't change. You don't change your relationship with God because of some other people. No, you don't. Don't be fooled by it. Don't lower your commitment or standard of holiness to meet theirs. It is imperative, my dear brothers and sisters, that you don't give up on God because of people. You don't give up that relationship with God. Oftentimes you ask God, you asked me to be here. Why is it happening? Why is this happening? Oftentimes we take issues and we take the sins of other people as ours and we take it personally. And oftentimes as leaders in our church, we ask our skills and we ask our leadership skills. Am I really a good leader? My dear brothers and sisters, forget about other people's behavior if you cannot control them. You cannot control them. If you cannot influence them, let them be. For so long as you have done your job, you have done your part as a minister of reminding them of their unredeemed behaviors, let them be. Do not go down to their level. Number three is that get beyond it. Verses 10 and 14 of Timothy, for 2 Timothy, is that change what you can, which finally is how you will live. Life is 10% what happens and 90% how you respond to it. You see the difference between reaction and response? Reaction is carried by emotions. And so, because it is carried by emotions, you don't have a sense of control. You don't control already the behaviors of the other people, and then you lose control of yourself. That's what we call reaction. You go down to the level of these people, and therefore the relationship is impaired. But when you respond, and our response counts. There will always be critics, my dear brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter if she had what she had said about you, if she had said uh, lies about you. It doesn't matter if you know a different side of him at work. It doesn't matter if those two are always bickering. It doesn't matter whether you can see much love in that person 2 rows ahead of the church or at the back, or even the whole church. Here's what matters, my dear brothers and sisters: your own response to God. That's where you would focus on. We have bad attitudes in our team. In our church, we have bad attitudes. Can you imagine, just our example for the evening, can you imagine bad attitudes in a football team and etc., in a congregation maybe, and then you give up on the game? The same is true with our church. You cannot control the behavior of other people, the way they speak, the way they carry themselves. And what happens? You give up on them. You give up on the church. And I was saying, I was just reading as I was doing this research, 60% of ordained ministers, bishops, and pastors and priests are lonely in their jobs. That is the result of a research just published. 60%. No wonder why we're having troubles in this world. It's because our religious leaders are having their own troubles and they don't know how to control it. When we see problems or bad attitudes in our church, are we giving up on the church? Are we giving up on our congregation? It says, God, people to bug you in the body, don't let them hold you back. Don't let them hold you back. Don't allow them to bring you down. Then you ask the question, maybe their faith is not real? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the best question is, how about you? How about your faith? Is it real for you? What others think or say or do is beyond your control. Remember that. I'll repeat that, my dear brothers and sisters. What others think or say or do is beyond your control. Therefore, guard yourself. Leave it behind and move on. You, we, me, I just have to move on. Don't let others hold you back. You just be different. Rise above it. Don't gravitate on the same level, my dear brothers and sisters. If you recognize and remember, well, Walter Payton. Walter Payton is one of the best football players in the American history. And in his profession, he was able to illustrate 16,726 yards, or equivalent to 9 miles of rushing. That means he carried the ball, he rushed the ball, he carried it 9 miles all in all in his profession. Seldom football players can do that. That's the reason why he is on the record. But you know how many times he was knocked down? Out of 16,726 yards, he was knocked down every 4.4 yards. You compute that. How many thousand times he was knocked down? And yet he moved on, He rushed. He still go on and played. He enjoyed the play. He was able to get a record-breaking illustration of 16,726 yards, or 9 miles in total. My dear brothers and sisters, one day when I stand before God, I don't want to stand and say before God, but Dr. Cadano tripped me. I'm going to put the blame on Bishop Maso, tripped me. My members, my fellow members in ACE tripped me because they're not cooperating, they're not this supportive. No, I cannot say that. Or you can say to your members in the congregation, she knocked me down. My pastor knocked me down. My dear brothers and sisters, just like Walter Payton, I want to have my 9 miles. I may be knocked down several times, 1,000 times, but I want my 9 miles. I want my 16,726 yards to put a record breaking in my relationship with God. How about you, my dear brothers and sisters? That you want to have your own your 9 miles? So, in relationship that we establish, it is always fitting and it is always good that we watch ourselves instead of watching other people. Excuse me. It is always convenient to look at the faults and know what the faults and discuss of the faults and talk of the faults of other people and mistakes of other people. It is always convenient, easy. But watch ourselves if we're living up to the standards that each of us God has given. May the Lord bless you. Bless us. Thank you.